Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at a cooperative deduction game called the Shipwreck Arcana. In this game, the players are trying to escape from an otherworldly fate, and you are going to be working together in order to deduce what a player is holding secretly by what they play out onto the board. And so everyone is working together. The player whose turn it is cannot speak, and the other players will, discuss what's happening, what they've seen, the choices that the active player made, and attempt to figure out the number they are holding in their hand. So, let's go ahead and take a look at this game. It's a strange idea, this idea of mixing a cooperative game with a deduction game, but it's a very straightforward game as well. So, again, let's take a look at it. We'll come on back after that. I'll tell you what I think of it. This is the game set up for 3 players on easy mode. Each player is going to have a line of numbers in front of them, and then the doom tracker and the score tracker would start here on 0, both of them for easy mode. If you want to make the game harder, it will tell you to start with the doom tracker farther ahead. You'll also shuffle up the deck of cards and reveal 4 of them, leave the rest of the deck over here above them, face up. And then you've got all of the other trackers, the fates, in this bag here. They look exactly like the player tokens, but they are in fact black. So, what players are attempting to do is very simple. You are trying to get your score tracker all the way around this card to 7 before the doom tracker gets there. And you are going to be trying to deduce information that the other players are holding in order to advance that tracker. So, on your turn, I'll have the yellow player here start. You are going to reach into the bag and draw tiles until you have 2. So at the beginning of the game, of course, I will take 2 as I start with none of them. And I would take a look at these and not show them to anyone else, but for the example here, I'll go ahead and show them to you. So I drew a 3 and I drew a 5, and now I would have to place one of these below one of these cards out here. One of these 4, ideally, if I cannot play in any of them, then the hours here says that I must play under that one if I cannot play anywhere else. So as I take a look at these cards out here, I'll make some decisions. So this one says if one of your fates matches a visible fate, meaning one already played below one of the cards, I could play the other one there. I cannot do that. This says if one of them is exactly one more or one less than the other, so if they're 1 apart, I cannot do that. The sum being 5 or less would allow me to play there, and I cannot do that either. And this one says if one of your fates is higher than the other, then I can play the higher one here. Okay, I can play that, and in fact I can only play there. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to play the 5 under this card. And now I cannot speak to the other players. We are all trying to work together, so they're going to now start deducing some things. And the other players would tell me if they want me to flip any of my numbers face down, just as a visual aid for them to start figuring some things out. I'm never allowed to manipulate my own line of numbers without being asked to do so by the other players. And so the other players would now take a look at what I chose to do, and they cannot deduce any information from this because me having played a 5 doesn't really eliminate any choices here. But taking a look at this card, they can eliminate that. Well, for one thing, they can eliminate the 6 and the 7 because of this card. I played the higher number there. So they would ask me, okay, flip your 6 and your 7 face down. Very well. Then they would take a look at this one that says, if one of them is exactly 1 more or 1 less than the other. Well, they know I would have played the 5 there if the other one was a 4. That's much more information. So they'll ask me to go ahead and flip down the 4, and they'll go ahead and ask me to flip face down the 5 as well, because this specifically says if one is higher than the other. It cannot be a 5, and yes, there are repeats in here. There are 3 of each number in here. So the 5 is gone as well. And that's, I think, as far as I could go right now. Now, the next step would be for them to try to figure out what my fate that I'm holding is. Again, this, of course, being hidden from the other players. But they're not quite ready to do that yet. So they're going to stop there, and it'll be the next player's turn. Before we get to the next player's turn, though, some of the cards out here might fade. What does that mean? The number of pips on these tiles is the number of hours that advance in our progress of trying to escape from this fate. And the cards have a value across the bottom that is how many hours it takes for that card to fade. In this case, this takes 3. It only has 2 assigned, so it will not fade. If the total was 3 or more, however, it would fade. And when that happens, we are going to take this card, we are going to flip it over, put it underneath the other ones, giving all the players a one-time power, and take the next one and place it there, having any fate below that card cycle back into the bag. But that is not taking place. Another thing that happens when the players make a prediction and try to guess what this number is. If they get it right, we advance 1 on the score tracker. I'll reset my line, and the one I'm holding will go back into the bag. If they make an incorrect prediction, the Doom will advance 1, and I still show my tile, reset my line. And if a card fades and a correct prediction was not made that turn, then the Doom marker will advance 2 steps. So none of those things have happened quite yet. It'll be the blue players go, they go ahead and draw up to 2. Again, I'll just go ahead and show you these. So they drew a 7 and a 1, and they think about where they want to play this. Definitely cannot go there, cannot go there, because the sum is not that. And neither one matches the 5. Unfortunately, they are going to be forced to play the 7 here, which, again, unfortunately, is very little information. So the other players, in this case the yellow and green player, would take a look at that. They would groan loudly, and they would say, well, flip face down your 7. We know it can't be that. And that's about all we can do right now. These are not helping us out very much right now. Once that's done, we can definitely not make a prediction. This card will fade. Doom marker advances by 2. This player's holding this tile face down, by the way. That fades, and we place a new one out, having both of these cycle back into the bag. It'll be the next player's turn. Now, again, some of these are going to allow you to take some special actions. You can have as many face up as you want, but you may use 1 per player's turn to eliminate some options. This one, for example, says before making a prediction, the group may discard this to pick a number and ask, is your fate higher than said number? So you say X, and then you ask, is your fate higher than X? Some of the other ones are going to allow you to make 2 predictions at the same time. If either one's correct, then it's correct. Some of them are going to allow you to eliminate some numbers. So, for example, this one says before making a prediction, the group may ask, is your fate 5, 6, or 7? If so, you say yes or no. Any answers that you would be allowed to give to these cards will always come in the form of a yes or a no. And that's basically it. You continue doing this until either all the players together collaboratively will get to 7 victory points, or the Doom marker itself advances either from wrong predictions or from cards fading, and it itself gets to 7 before the players win. That is how you play the game. And that is the Shipwreck Arcana here. So let's talk about it. I'm going to break this down so I have some talking points using my target audience system. We start off with thematic ties. Is the theme original, and is it well implemented? I think not. I don't think it does either one of those things particularly well. The theme is very nebulous. It's hardly touched on. And while I understand the game is very much mechanical, I think the theme could have been a little stronger to help bridge that gap a little bit. The attempt here is a little bit feeble in my opinion. I do not like the way the theme here is handled. The aesthetics, component quality, artwork, things like that, I think are very nice. I love the comic book style artwork. It makes me think a little bit of the Hellboy style artwork in the comics for that. But it is splashy, it is very bright and highly cartoony, but it all definitely fits together clearly from the same artist. I like that very much. Replayability. Does the game scale well, and does it give you new things to discover? Very much so, yes. One particularly interesting thing that this game does is it includes rules for how to add a player mid-game, or if someone must step away, how to, quote-unquote, delete a player halfway through the game, or really at any point in the game. And I think that's very clever and something you do not see in a lot of games, many games at all. So the replayability, the idea of discovering new things, the way it scales, it's very fluid. I like that there's a nice amount to discover here. And you're not going to see all of the cards show up in every game, so there is that as well. Game length, does it stay interesting the whole time, or does it become repetitive? The game is very short. It's very, it gets to the point quite quickly, and right from the beginning, you are going to be forced to start deducing some really interesting things. Deduction in this has no ramp up. I like that very much. And it's so short, it does not get repetitive. The game is tens as well, so it's very enjoyable on that front. So I think the game length is exactly what it needs to be. Ease of play. Does the game come across as fiddly, or does it have any extraneous rules? Anything like that? Absolutely not. The game is clean. It's a straightforward design. It's original on top of that, or at least it seems to me that I haven't discovered anything quite like this before. This idea of cooperating over little tiny puzzles, that present themselves from round to round. And so I find that they are streamlined to allow the players to let the mechanism sort of fade to the background and just dive into the puzzle solving. That's exactly what I'm looking for in a game like this. A game that lets me just cooperate with the players, where the game is happening less on the table, manipulation of things, moving tokens about, all of that, and more in the talk, the discussion that the players are having. This does not fade necessarily when you're playing with only 2 players, by the way. You are still doing all of that in your head, and yes, you need to look at what the options were and deduce from there, but I love the interaction in this one. Obviously, again, with 2 players, there's not going to be that communication, but the puzzle aspect, I think, will keep you hooked. And then lastly, tactics and strategy. Does the game play out correctly? Does it feel too lucky? Does this idea translate at the end of the day? And that was sort of a bit of my concern going into it, reading the rules and then going into it. And I have to say, it really does. This works. It's a charming game. It's a clever game. It's one that allows the players to have those aha moments, to feel good after you figure something out. I love that. I love a game that's 20 minutes or so and allows all the players at one point or another to feel proud that they figured something else out. And again, whether that is something that would have been apparent to anyone or not, I think that's clever, and it makes for a good vibe around the table while maintaining a tension. I love the fading idea. Again, mechanically, very clean, very interesting, but I love the fact that you're going to have that tension of the doom tracker moving ahead on you if you don't figure things out quickly. Do you take a leap sometimes, a leap of faith, right? How much can you figure out? There's even a rule where you may, if you're holding a number from a previous round, and you can, using that number, deduce what that other player is holding. You cannot share that openly with the other players, but you can sacrifice that token, show it to the other players. You'll lose that token, right? So you need to start with no information, but it'll help you make that decision, So that might be worthwhile, There's only 3 of each number in the bag. There's 2 out there. You're holding the other one. That can't be it. So that's clever as well. Corner case, but interesting. So I really like this one. I found it to be charming, attractive, but also just original. And it's one that is going to require folks to enjoy deduction, puzzle solving, and a little bit of math. But it is unique, and it's a cooperative game that I just haven't seen before. This is not Pandemic. This is not any of those co-op games, It's a very clever idea. I'm very happy with this one. This one's going to get a seal of approval from me, a strong seal of approval. I would certainly recommend that if you enjoy quieter games, if you enjoy thinky games, and if you just are a fan of deduction in general, this is a really neat deduction exercise. Very well done. The Shipwreck Arcana here. Definitely look into it, folks. I'm Z Garcia. Thanks for checking this out with me. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com.